See, today again we have come to discuss today's editorial topics. So basically, topic of discussion would be on learning from Silicon Valley Bank crisis, and second topic that we are going to discuss from our editorial point of view is how misty this mangrove plan that is recently announced in the budget, how does it plan to conserve mangroves? So let's take a look at these two important topics that I have picked up from today's newspaper. Okay, that we're going to discuss today. Okay, chalo. First, we're going to talk about the most important topic from economics and financial standpoint. That is learning from SVB crisis. So basically, I am going to explain this thing and then I will read it out to you, the excerpt or all these lines or op-ed or editorial that's written. Just first understand some basic terminologies here to get the ball rolling. So SVB crisis that's happened here in the US, it's basically a bank crisis. This bank is for, remember, this is a bank for startups. What does it mean? Like most of the startups here deposit their money here in this bank. This is a bank. Okay. Now there are important points. What went wrong for this bank? Why did it start? Why at this time did the bank announce complete bankruptcy or insolvency? Okay, rather insolvency. Now, so let's take a look at some of the important events that has taken place. That was in 2020. Time is 2020. Think about it. It's a COVID time. What was that? It's a COVID time. People have less money to spend, right? So all the countries basically, including India, has decreased the repo rate, has decreased the lending rate, so that banks can be able to lend to most of the people at lesser rates, so that the money supply in the market increases. That's the basic idea, right? So there was more funding. There was more funding in the market. So there was more liquidity. So what it triggered? It triggered inflation, right? It triggered inflation, and that is very important. One first event. Now where let's talk about it more detail. So due to 2020 COVID and due to injection of more liquidity into the market, every country faced inflationary pressure. Faced inflation. What did every country face? Inflation. Okay. Okay. And during this time is 2020, extremely, bulk of money was deposited in this bank, SVB bank, right? This bank. Now, what is the primary function of bank? Bank, it's a bank is a financial institution which take money, take deposits and give it out to loan, right? And this loan interest rate is more than the savings, right? And that's the profit. So bank can give out loan and by that they can earn profit. Also, bank can invest that money, the deposited money, in bond, securities, stock, and many other financial instruments. So these are the two ways that bank can diversify their income or their income. Yeah. So basically, what is very important to understand here, that time what happened is that huge amount of deposit was being done to the bank. Okay, so huge amount of deposit was being deposited in that bank, and uh, most of the deposits bank did not. Yes, there was loan, but the same in the. The bank did not give loan in the same proportion as they got their deposited money. Yes, there was, first you understand, huge amount of deposits, right? Yes, there was increase in loan amount for the bank, but most of the bank's income, okay, it's a liability. In fact, that money, that deposited money has been diverted or was diverted by the bank to buying some bonds, okay, to bonds. And what happens is that at that time, as I was mentioning, the interest rate was less, so you can understand that bond was actually bond was taken, or bond was um, I mean, the RBI, I mean, their RBI, that is the Fed Reserve or other, who issued the bond at a lesser price, right? And these banks have invested all their money in the most of, I mean, not all their money, most of their money in buying bonds, right? And now what happened this time, as I was saying, due to all the loosening monetary policy, inflation was struck 2020, and 2022 this time. I mean, from the beginning of the 2022, what happened is that every country wanted to tame inflation, and for that the bank wanted to increase their repo rate. Okay, so what happened is that the the bond that these banks previously held could not give you much return, right? Because the interest rate here now is lesser, but the bank has to pay more interest to the depositor because the situation has completely reversed. So the asset quality, is not good for the bank now. And what happened is that this is one scenario. Now what happened? I mean, during this time, most of the startups to which a large amount of money is being deposited, they did not perform well in this time. Okay, this is also a trigger point. And as bond price was lessening, there was a market speculation that this SVB bank might not you know give the depositors full money back in time. So what happened? They triggered a sense of panic. It triggered a sense of panic among all the customers of the bank, and they wanted to take money out of the bank as soon as possible. So a situation of bank run happened in the bank, and that triggered banks to sell the securities, or that means the bond, at even more lesser price. And that income of, I mean, after which the income that was received after selling off the bond was not enough to pay back all its customers. So basically, there was an insolvency case reported. So that's the basic idea. Now, let me just read it. What has happened is that it mentioned about the inflation from early 2021. And why? Because the injection of a lot of money there. Now the Fed, so this is the thing, and but they wanted to curtail inflation, and the Fed was doing delicate balancing, hoping that higher rates would check inflation and excess liquidity would support growth. This strategy could have been sustained had there been no accident. Unfortunately, the SVB crisis opened a Pandora's box. The SVB was 16th. SVB was 16th largest bank in the US, having a geographical concentration in Silicon Valley with industry concentration among startups. So that I was mentioning, most of the deposit came from startups. It had the highest deposit growth among US banks during the low interest days. During the low interest days, it had the highest deposit of 2020-21. 97% of its deposits were wholesale, that is over 250,000 outside the FDIC deposit insurance cap. You understand this? Up to this much amount, $250,000 money is insured by the US Federal Deposit Insurance Company. I mean, just like in India, we have RBI. One subsidiary of RBI is named as DICGC. DICGC. It insures 5 lakh amount of the depositor. 5 lakh. And there it is 2,50,000 dollar, or roughly 2 crore. Okay. So that money is insured. But the problem is 97% of it deposit is more than 2 crore. Okay. So that's why it's a very problematic, and it has higher ECG ranking based on restrictive lending. SVB invested, that's the point. SVB invested 45% of its balance sheet in long duration mortgage backed securities to earn a higher return than its cost of deposits. The Fed's sharp U-turn, that is the raising the rate of interest in mid 2022, sorry, in mid 2022 from inflation is transitory to rates being higher for longer, push the SVB MBC portfolio into losses. That's why that portfolio, that investment from the bank went into losses. Every rate hike by the Fed kept increasing the losses, though they were not accounted for being part. So that's the thing. And then what happened? Now think about it. Depositors of SVB startup started now. So they just had to survive the negative career as the yield on MBC was lower than their deposit cost. This was possible till such time deposit kept flowing. Now what happened? Till যতক্ষণ this was possible till such time deposit kept flowing. But depositors of SVB, that is startups, started withdrawing deposit as they needed to fund losses and could not raise capital from their sponsors. Now that is a coincidence ki, when bank is not performing well, at the same time startups are also failing. So how do they fund their losses? They had to withdraw money from banks, right? The SVB had to sell securities and book losses to meet deposit outflows. The senior management of SVB sold their holdings under a trading plan, probably resulting in an accelerated flow from SVB deposit. SVB announced a capital raise of 2 billion but found no takers. As the word spreads about losses and tighter liquidity, deposit outflow accelerated. FDIC had to take SVB into receivership to stop panic. The US Treasury Fed FDIC stitched a rescue package by guaranteeing all deposits to stop the panic among small bank deposit holders. The thing was, now it is considered to be a great loss. I mean, the second biggest loss after 2008 subprime crisis. Okay, but the problem is these banks were not following Basel III norms. So there was no capital adequacy ratio being maintained, and the capital was inadequate. The capital adequacy ratio, CAR ratio, that is globally it has to be maintained 9%. Okay, 9% of your risk weighted asset should be maintained as tier 1 and tier 2 capital, but that Basel norm was not fulfilled by the bank. So there were many loopholes, and that seems to be widening by the day as it is being exposed. So this is a learning from the SVB crisis, but India's case, India's banking sector seems to be robust because because of the liquidity, because RBI has proactively prescribed prudential norms, liquidity coverage ratio, cap on the HTML portfolio, how much you can invest, there is a limit. Okay, and the next topic that we are going to discuss today is how Mishti. So that was SVB crisis. I think you have understood why that financial crisis here happened and why this SVB bank came to a operation of the SVB bank came to a standstill, and what are the learnings can India take, and how it is important to manage a bank's balance sheet, its risk and asset, and how it is important for the banks to actually maintain all kind of capital so that bank run situation never happens. Now, second thing is how Mishti plans to conserve bankrupts. Now, today is 21st March, right? So today is International Forestry. So I cannot but take up this particular topic. Now, 21st March International Forest Day, and we are talking about Mishti. Mishti is a mangrove plan, right, to conserve mangrove vegetation. Now, today is the International Day of Forest. Acha, do you know what are the benefits of forest? Why should we be focused to conserve forest as much as we can? Because forests are oxygen generator, right? Oxygen generator and carbon dioxide taker. or you can say consumer, or you can say in good word that is a sink. Okay, so basically it helps in greenhouse gas emission prevention. Okay, there will be less greenhouse gas emission, and ultimately we are basically tackling climate change. Okay, other than that, you know, forest is home to diverse wildlife and rich biodiversity. Okay, and forest can give you multiple forest based produce like wood, timber, paper, and others. The importance of forest, the need of their expansion cannot be emphasized enough, because there are so many important aspects of of conservation of forest. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India is on course to devise a unique biodiversity conservation model through a holistic approach. India is displaying its commitment to the conservation and restoration of natural ecosystems and has firm commitment towards the conservation and management of mangroves. Now, you understand this? Mangroves is something, is a plantations. I mean, you can say a vegetation, not plantation, sorry, vegetation that grows where the river water meets salt water, that is seawater. Because in this particular juncture, mangrove forestations happen, or mangrove forestation actually are seen. Now the thing is, as mangroves in West Bengal, in the region of Sundarban, South 24 Parganas, we can see these mangrove forests. Okay, and Sundari, Goran, and other halophytes are there. Okay. Now, as part of this effort in Budget 23-24, the Modi government building on India's success in afforestation. Okay. Rolled out Mangrove Initiative. Now, what is the full form of MISHTI? The Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes. Under this scheme, mangrove plantations along the coastline and on salt land will be taken up. The government is emphasizing mangrove because this tidal forest serves as a nursery for several organisms. It also acts as a bulwark against coastal erosion. Yeah. So that's the most important point, is that, in coastal area, there is always a chance of flooding, right? Because every time flooding occurs, when when there is a rise in water level, the coastal area is the most prone, because it's a flood prone region. So to prevent that from happening, or so that, I mean, the frequency of coastal erosion, or the frequency of flooding remains, I mean, becomes lesser, it is also an initiative. And also, as I mentioned, that besides coastal erosion, it can sequester carbon, sink, that is, it can, store. Sequester means store, right? Store carbon, carbon sink, and providing livelihoods to millions of people, besides harboring an array of faunal elements in its habitat. And it's just like flora, there are many, like Royal Bengal tiger is there. I mean, is an endangered species that is present in that particular region. So India recently joined the Mangrove Alliance for Climate, a joint initiative of Indonesia and the UAE. What is that? MSC, Mangrove Alliance for Climate. The world has much to gain from India's experience in mangrove conservation, because we have shown expertise in the area for nearly 5 decades. India has restored different types of mangrove ecosystem on the east and west coast, and learned some valuable lessons. Mangrove forests constitute an extremely productive ecosystem, representing less than 0.4% of the global forest area. They produce numerous goods and services to the marine environment and communities. Across the globe, mangroves are 123 countries and covering an area of 150,000 square kilometers, approximately one third in Southeast Asia. Mangroves are great carbon sinks. All global mangroves can sequester up to 20 million tons of carbon per year, about 10 times greater than equivalent upland tropical forest. So it can sequester more carbon than upland tropical forest. Moreover, mangrove ecosystem contribute 10 to 15% coastal sediment carbon storage and export around 10% particulate terrestrial carbon to the ocean. India is trying to harness mangrove contribution to carbon sequestration, means of conservation and restoration way to tackle, as I mentioned, greenhouse gas emission and mitigate climate impacts. Spread across nearly 50,000 square kilometers in India. Mangroves can remove 9 tons of carbon dioxide daily, equivalent to 270 million in the international market. Okay, it can equivalent to 270 million in the international market. A wide range of, and in addition, a global fish catch of 20% depends on ensuring food security. So mangroves also protect groundwater aquifer from seawater intrusion, ensuring water security for the coast. In addition, a global fish catch of up to 80% depends on mangroves, ensuring food security for coastal people. Food security for coastal people. Fish, right? The wide range of coastal habitats along with the riverine and estuarine ecosystem provides an ideal system for mangroves in India in terms of density and cover. Indian mangroves have high species diversity. Mangroves harbor most groups of faunal elements from protozoa to mammals. The faunal diversity of mangrove ecosystem contributes to about 5% of Indian fauna. West Bengal leads the list of faunal component with around 2,500 species, followed by Andaman and Nicobar Island and Tamil Nadu. Okay, so West Bengal first, then Andaman and Nicobar, and then Tamil Nadu. It is interesting to note that Sundarban mangroves are the only mangrove habitat for tigers worldwide. The Sundarban Tiger Reserve harbors more than 100 tigers and associated carnivores and herbivores. Recognizing the importance of such tiger and mangrove, the Sundarban National Park has been declared, as you know, Sundarban National Park has been declared as a World Heritage Site. Their richness sadly also adds to their vulnerability. Mangroves have been particularly susceptible to exploitation because of valuable forest produce, fishery resources, and their existence in coastal area, which are which are converted to other use. Right. As a result, the scale of human impact on mangroves has increased dramatically. Globally, the rate of mangrove decline is approximately 1% per year. Rate of decline. India has recorded net increase. That's a very important point. India has recorded increase. Okay. To further give an impetus to efforts being made to conserve the mangrove ecosystem, the country has opted for MISTI for an integrated approach to mangrove management through coherent policy development and insisting all stakeholders involved. This is the best way to achieve conservation and sustainable use of biological resources, which a mangrove ecosystem supports. Mangroves are the economic foundations of many tropical coastal regions. Therefore, to sustain a blue economy, it is imperative to ensure the sustainability of coastal habitats, particularly mangroves for tropical nations at the local, regional, and international level. Blue economy means the economy which is located very close to water body, right? Close to water body. Their economy. It could be fishery, forestry, and mangroves and everything which are associated with that particular habitat. So it is important to sustain a blue economy, and for that to maintain coastal habitat so that it does not fall prey to climate change is important, particularly mangroves. MISTI launched by PM Modi is significant step in providing nature-based solutions for mitigating the effects of cyclone, because that's a cyclone-prone area too, and storm surges and our fight against the climate crisis. So this particular editorial is written by Bhupender Yadav, who is the Union Cabinet Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Thank you. So this was today's discussion. Thank you.